Okay, this is for you Pinside.com forum members here. This is Xboxer 1985 or Pinwiz 1985 there on Pinside, and I'm going to show my progress with cleaning up my Playfield. As you can tell, I've taken it out of the machine, and this is for an Embryon Bally 1981, by the way, for anyone that doesn't know. I'm going to attack this problem with the chattering pop bumpers, phantom ghost switching, and the EMI RFI issues on the wiring harnesses going back to the OEM boards there. It's a known issue for this generation, as I mentioned in previous videos, and even if you had the new Altec board set, you still have the same issues, and I'll show you exactly why. So previous video, you saw me put a whole bunch of ferrite collar beads on the various sections of the wiring harness that I thought was the problem and the culprits. I've since then taken them off because, well, I'm going to go and try and really attack this problem head on by separating the power wires and the signal wires so they have each of their own harnesses. But it's going to be a little bit more complex than I thought, and I'll show you why. Cabinet here is, again, I don't think this is the major problem, but power wires and signal wires are grouped together as well, and while it's not too large, there's not really a lot of signal activity going on the coin door, so I don't think that's where the issue is coming from. So now let's move on to the Playfield. So as you look at this Playfield, you say to yourself, yeah, it's a mess. It's a real mess. Everything's packed on here pretty tight, and let's take a look at the wiring harness. Now the wiring harness, I got it just resting there at the moment. I only have one hand available. This wiring harness is for the general illumination lighting. This is the AC coming off here. You got solenoid connector here. You got your Playfield switches. That's why I have the ferrite on here. You have power, you have lights, and then I believe that's, then you have your main solenoids for all the coils. So this is where you're getting a lot of noise. They're all grouped together. If they're not split off at certain points here, they're all going to go combine and go to this big thick power wiring harness here. This is the main issue. If you can separate them, then you should be able to lessen the chance that the interference from the power wires is going to bleed into the signal wires. But I still have a bit of an issue the way that this layout is. So the harness comes in, there's a large collar here that prevents it from moving around. Now this is where it becomes tricky because everything is composited into the harness here, and it rolls around the Playfield as such. And as you could tell, this is where the main harness comes in and splits off for the coils. And the coils run back down around here. And as I'm trying to look past the camera, sorry guys, this is where it combines into the main harness here. Then you got more here. This splits off to more signal wires for this section, which is where the pop bumpers are and the power to the pop bumpers. And then you even have another one going on around here all the way around for yet more power wires and then signal wires going up around in here. So this is a complete mess with the way that they laid this out. There really isn't going to be too much I can do to separate the wiring harnesses unless I really took everything apart, and I don't really want to have to do that. I will be taking this thing apart eventually, probably in another month or so, to have the Playfield restored, but for the time being, I want to see how much of a difference of separating this piece of the harness here, separate power wires and signal wire harness, and see how well the performance will be improved or if it doesn't improve. Now what I'll do is after I separate the harness, at least coming off the pigtail piece here, is I'll take the ferrites off of that end piece here and put it around the sections where I believe that they're really coupling together. And again, this may look like a really bad spaghetti mess, and it truly is. I don't know how well it's coming through on the camera, but here you got tiny little signal wires here mixed in with these power wires. This is just not, I mean, it's the way that pinballs were made back then, and even to an extent today as well, but there wasn't really a lot of design engineering put into the pinball machines. They just did layouts, and however the wires they can get them in there with the least amount of wire length, that's how they did it. So through the magic of editing, I am going to show you the before, as I have already, and then the after, and we'll see how the performance goes. Okay, now here's the after result here. I was able to separate the signal wires completely in their own separate harnesses. I still had to, this is for the Playfield, this is for the coin door and the cabinet. This speaker wire is tied into that. There wasn't much I can do. These are the two main power wires. You got the soundboard right here. This thick harness is actually all for the lights. And then I have the power wires that all run to the output of the solenoids separated here away from the signal wires. And then I also, over here, these are power wires, and these under here is kind of a mix. Unfortunately, I didn't want to go too crazy on this until I had a chance to investigate what it is. But this looks to be part of J4 that sends the power and the signal to J4 on the solenoid driver board to fire the coils. So that I separated these two harnesses here so those wouldn't couple either. And here on the underside, this is the result of what I was able to do. I wasn't able to mess with any of the stuff on here. It's really going to be cumbersome to separate those wires specifically. I did add the ferrites over to the return and the send lines on the signals wires for the 4 pop bumpers only. So you got 1, 2, 3, and 4 up here. And the result of separating the wire harness down here, so now what you have here is you have the 2 main power wires, you have the signal wires, and then you have the signals for the lights. This is all lights in this one here, and it's held in by that strain relief over in the corner. And what I've done is I've only added ferrite to the signal wires, so there's 3 of them along the signal wires. And again, all very, I mean, not the neatest, but it's definitely separated instead of it being one large harness. Okay, and the final test here, once we start a game, I didn't put any of the pinballs back in here, but now you shouldn't see this thing phantom pop at all. Much better. I mean, even this one is not going to give you any problems at all. I really think that separating the wire harness did the trick.